I wanted to make something really special for my grandpa's 85th birthday, so this week I'll be showing you how I made this highly custom cane for him. More details about what all of the seemingly random stuff is that makes it so special a little later in the video. The 2x2 maple stock I purchased from my local hardwood supplier for this cane shaft was just a little curved and needed to be flattened and squared up at the joiner and planer before I used my tapering jig to cut a 1/4 inch taper. From 1.5 inches at the top near the handle to 1 inch at the foot where it touches the ground. I wanted this cane to be a little on the thicker side and a little stronger since my grandpa's always been a larger framed man. Normally my tapering jig has little screw down handles to T-bolts, but the stock was so tall they didn't work. I got around this by simply screwing the fence to the sled. After tapering the stock, I found center, then marked circles of the appropriate diameter at the top and bottom of the shaft to help me keep the taper and size true before shaping. As badly as I wish I had a lathe in my tiny shop, I just don't have the room for it, so I needed to shape the shaft by hand. After trimming the 90-degree corners off with the bandsaw, turning the stock into a hexagon instead of a square in essence, I started to shape it with a spoke shave. Bless Nick Offerman's heart for being such a spoke shave advocate. It's a very useful and inexpensive tool to have around, and it made this much easier than I expected. A hand plane also helped refine the shape and even out any low or high spots before sanding. Working up from 80 to 150 grit on the orbital sander, I sanded and shaped some more before taking the shaft over to the belt sander. If your belt sander is anything like mine, there should be a little soft spot where the belt has no support. By placing the stock over that spot and gripping it loosely, I could get the cane to spin, and this really helped with rounding everything out. But make sure you're wearing gloves because it does get hot, friction and all that. The handle I decided to make out of walnut for a nice contrast with the maple shaft. I glued my template to the stock with spray mount adhesive and then marked where I wanted to drill the hole for the connecting dowel. Since the stock was already square and flat, I drilled the hole before cutting out the shape, which made drilling much easier.
I don't feel so good.
A moment to remember our fallen, dusted comrades. I also drilled a 1/2 inch hole in the cane shaft with a handheld drill, paying extra attention to get the hole as centered and straight as possible. I should have done this while the stock was still square, but this turned out pretty okay. Some quick backstory on why I'm making a sign painter's cane. There are 5 generations of sign painters in my family, my grandpa being the 3rd. Since my grandpa graduated high school, he's been a sign painter, and his whole adult life he had a very successful sign business in the Portland area, at one point having 3 sign shop locations and supporting my whole family. Some of my earliest memories are of playing in that shop as a kid. But as time, technology, and age advanced, coupled with the main shop being robbed twice in 3 months, he was forced to close down his business. But he never put his brush down or lost his keen eye for a good sign. That's what makes this cane so special for him. All the little nuanced things that clearly make this a sign painter's cane to anyone that knows. And, to cap it all off, it's personalized with his name and a slogan he used to call himself and the painters in the shop by: scientists. Not scientists, scientists. He's a punny guy. Next, I trimmed the handle blank to the correct width of the table saw, taking multiple passes before cutting out the handle's profile at the bandsaw. If you don't have a bandsaw, you can do this with a jigsaw. To make the 1/2 inch hardwood connecting dowel, I used my dowel making plate and some elbow grease. These are fairly straightforward to make, just holes of various diameters drilled into plate steel with a wood backer. I tried pushing the stock through with a drill as I've seen other channels do, but it just wasn't working. So I resorted to brute strength and hammered it through. No problem. Roughing in the curves of the belt sander made pretty quick work of the handle shaping before refining the fit between the handle and the cane shaft. Okay, here's a nifty little trick if you're ever trying to make 2 surfaces match up, or see where exactly a high spot is rubbing onto another piece. Using Brenda's lipstick, or lip liner in this case I guess, I smeared it on one side of the joint, then put the handle and shaft together, giving it a little wiggle, and when I separated the two, the lipstick showed me exactly where the high spots on the cane shaft were. I could slice these off with a chisel and repeat the process until the entire piece of maple was covered in lipstick, lip liner, whatever, showing me that the fit was pretty darn flat. This is a great trick, and I've used it in a lot of other aspects. When you don't exactly know where you need to remove material, lipstick. With the two pieces fitting well, I kept refining the shape of the handle with a Dremel, hand files, and sandpaper. I also used the Dremel to cut in the brush tip and ferrule that make up the curved part of the handle. A rat tail file came in handy to make the ferrule, that's the metal part that clamps bristles to the handle on a real paintbrush, look a little more realistic before carving in the bristles using my swivel knife, which is actually a leather working tool but worked really well here. Now this is where the cane really starts becoming custom and unique. I wanted to add as many elements as I tastefully could, which include yardstick markings down the entire shaft. During our move, I came across one of my grandpa's old yardsticks from back in the day. I took that to my computer, scanned it, and recreated it digitally so I could print a transfer template. I applied the transfer to the wood using liquitex gel medium. I picked that little technique up from the Craftsman channel. If you haven't checked him out, make sure you do. There's a link in the description below. Great stuff from him, and this is a really nice and easy way to transfer a design or template onto wood. After letting that dry, I applied water and removed the paper, which left me with a clear carving pattern to follow. I carved the markings and letters using a Dremel with various cut-off wheels and burr bits. Off camera, and after I'd already carved everything, my dad stopped by my shop to chat and suggest I try his wood burner to further burn in the detail. He was right. If I had to do this again, I would probably burn it from the start and skip the Dremel. For some reason, I've been trying to mix my leatherworking tools and supplies in my woodworking projects, and so far I've been pleasantly surprised. In this case, I used leather dye to stain the shaft of the cane a caramel color before sealing it with a coat of clear enamel. Here I'm using another leather technique called antiquing to add more depth and pop to the letters and markings. I'm mixing brown antique gel and black leather dye together to make black gel because I didn't have any, then thinning it out with a little tan coat. I'll have links to all these below. In essence, you carve the piece how you want, apply clear, and then rub in the gel antique paste, and that fills in all the carving with a dark color, making it really stand out before adding more clear to seal it in. One of Grandpa's favorite colors to use in his sign painting days was orange, and it just so happens his favorite flavor combos are orange and chocolate, so I dipped the paintbrush part of the handle in orange to make it look like it was in use. To really make the cane look like it had lived a long time in a sign shop, I splattered and smeared some of Grandpa's favorite paint colors all over the cane, before filling in his name and nickname with white paint. I assembled the handle to the shaft with a connecting dowel and two-part epoxy. This is an extremely strong joint, especially because it's a floating tenon in essence, and the two-part epoxy is just ridiculously strong. Now, one shot is a type of lettering enamel, and it's pretty much the holy grail of sign makers paint. I even have a one-shot can tattooed on my arm because of my family's history. Like, that's how important it is to sign painters. So I wanted to add some one-shot can labels to the cane to really top it off. Big thanks to Lee's Better Letters in Portland for letting me, a complete stranger, stop by and grab some labels off their used cans. Could not be more grateful for their help. I applied the labels to the cane with contact cement and CA glue, wrapping them around and then sealing any little pieces that were flying up with the CA glue. And if you're new to the channel, or you haven't already, please consider hitting the subscribe and bell notification. It helps out the channel a lot, and it's very much appreciated. Finally, it was time for multiple coats of clear enamel, scuffing in between with ultra-fine Scotch-Brite pads before the finishing coat of paste wax and adding the rubber foot. Sadly, I was not able to travel up to Canada to deliver this to my grandpa on his birthday, but my mom was kind enough to take it along with her, and she was able to capture the presentation. Here's how that went.
This is your official new cane. It has a paintbrush at the top made out of mahogany, I believe. And I'm getting the woods wrong. This is a different
And
wood.
this is all the measurements, yardstick?
This is from, he had one of your Northwest Sign Supply yardsticks.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he embedded it here.
Into it?
Yeah, well, he transferred it, kind
Yeah.
of. And also on the yardstick, you had 1.5 inches marked extra long. So he did the same here,
I did.
apparently. Then he put orange on the tip of the brush, your handle here, because you like orange as an accent color.
Yes, I like orange and chocolate.
Yes, that too. And then whatever that's called, one-shot labels at the base.
What a
So-
guy, what a guy.
Yeah.
So
So
what colors has he got on here?
that is medium green, this one, label.
Okay.
This one is a purple, perfect purple or something like
Magenta?
that. Not magenta, purple. And then this one doesn't have a color, but he was looking for 152 blue. And then he speckled it with paint. So it looked like it had been in the shop for a long time.
Right.
Here it says Bob Patey, the scientist.
Carl and I went to the golf course every once in a while for lunch while we were working on the house. And the very first time that the waitress came over, after taking our order, she said, "What do you do?" And Carl says, was a brain surgeon, is what Carl said. And she says, "Really?" And, she said, and we got our work clothes on. She says, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a scientist." Wow, I never met people like that before.